Okay, so I'm ready to get started. Welcome everyone. I'm the Agnihotra Lady. Welcome to the Cosmic Clinic. We're live here at Shanti Atlanta, the Atlanta campus of Shanti Institute, and we're located in Conyers, Georgia, the Atlanta campus. The main campus is located in historic Tuskegee, right at the street from Tuskegee University. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the Varuti mantra, which is what I always start with to just set a good mood and tone before I give my talk. So let's go ahead and get started. Om Swaha Agnihotra Lady Swaha Ayurveda Swaha Surya Bhurva Swaha Prajapatiye Namah. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome, welcome. I'm the Agnihotra Lady, and so thank you for joining me for this week's episode of the Cosmic Clinic. And let me see if I can, I'm trying to, okay, because the light was just like bright over my head. Let me see if that makes it too dark. Okay, because it seems like it's so bright right here. I have my my overhead light on, and if I don't have that on, then it's not going to be, I'll be too dark, you won't be able to see me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So a lot of things have been happening during the week with you know, we were talking about this. I had some people come over, Justin and some friends came over actually the other day. We were talking about the headlines in Australia with their infestation of mice, and now they're saying 6 or 7 cities here in the United States we're getting an infestation of crickets or grasshoppers, and they're eating up all the you know, the produce that the farmers are growing, which is not good. You know, that means it's going to affect food supplies. And then, you know, of course, we have the wildfires where they're evacuating parts of Arizona that from that border there of California. So there are a lot of different things that are happening. So it's even more so important for me to do the show so we can talk about all these things and know that even though you're watching these headlines, there's a way to clear up all these things with climate change and pollution if we get people doing Agnihotra. Agnihotra is what we teach at Shanti Institute, and of course at Shanti Atlanta, the Atlanta campus. And for those that are not familiar, Agnihotra is a purification that we do this in a copper pyramid, like so, right behind me. And it's done in sync with the circadian rhythm of nature. We do it at sunrise and sunset. And what happens is we put dried cow dung. We use rice, just regular brown rice, and then we use ghee, which is unsalted butter that's been where the fat has been boiled down. We put these items inside the pyramid, and then we utter a Sanskrit mantra exactly at sunrise and exactly at sunset. And there's a purification that takes place in the atmospheres. So in the atmosphere, it goes 8 miles up, and it's a 2-mile radius. So it purifies the air, it cleanses the water, restores the soil, and it clears up all these things that we have done that are not too good for the planet. And this is something that everyone can do to help with all the planetary distress, because along with all the normal ways that we read about with our water being contaminated, the soil being contaminated, we have all these GMO foods that are grown, and I'll get more into that, that you're eating food that is tainted. You know, everything's tainted. But when you have an atmosphere that is not clean, that means that there's a lot of thought pollution, because you're breathing in air, You breathe in about 2,500 gallons of air within a 24-hour period. And what do you think happens to your brain if the air is polluted? That affects how you think, how you act, how you interact with your family, how you act at work. And so there's a lot of chaotic behavior that goes along with climate change, which you really won't see headlines talking about that, but it is important to restore the planet's balance, the balance of nature, and to clear these things, because if that affects us as humans, our behavior, of course it affects the animals, all the animals, anything that lives in the ocean, that lives on the land, all these creatures are affected too by the climate change. So when you read about these wildfires and you read about these earthquakes and these mudslides and tornadoes and hurricanes and all these things, it's a cumulative effect with all the different aspects of pollution that we humans rain upon the planet. So we have to be better about that. And Agnihotra is a way in which we can restore nature's balance. So tonight I want to talk about, tonight's topic is disruption of atoms, real sustainability. What does that really mean? What is real sustainability and the planet? And so these three things, of course, are connected. And some of these things I talked about when Justin was here with some of our friends here at Shanti Atlanta, and we touched upon some of these things. But I want to really just connect the dots so everyone really understands what is happening on the most minute level, the very foundation of life. When you pollute the planet, what is happening to everything? What is happening to you on a cellular level? Okay, so I'm going to just start with the basics of, how are we created? First of all, we are created to be in sync with nature. There's no way that you can create, God created us humans, and we're not to be in sync with nature, because that is just the way of the universe, the way that our planet works. There's a way that the water flows, and the sun has its rhythm. There's a sunrise and a sunset. We have 4 seasons. So there is a pattern, okay, that is natural, that should not be tampered with by us humans, because we, in fact, are built to be in sync with all of that. We have the cycles of a woman. We have a cycle in which when we begin menstruation, a cycle when we end that, which is called menopause. We have a 9-month gestation period most of the time for when we have babies. And so there's a cycle to your body. And for men, the same thing. There's a cycle. They don't call it male menopause, but men too have a cycle in which their bodies begin to change, and they getting to their version of what I will call it male menopause. But we discuss these things in Ayurveda about the different cycles of men and women. So these are natural things that are programmed into our bodies, into our DNA, that should not be tampered with. And the minute you tamper with those things, that's when you have all these problems. And so when you look at that, you as a human, you're created in the image of God, and you are created to be in sync with nature. So let's start with the basics. So when you start with that, as you, the human, then you can begin to expand that concept into what is natural. How are you in sync with nature? First of all, you get in sync with yourself as you, the human, and then you look around you and see what is natural, what are we tampering with, and what is the effect of that? Because you can't just do one thing and having that affect the other. And that's a biological concept that we've talked about for years called man, microbes, flora, fauna. When you affect one of that list, you affect everything, because everything is connected. So we too, we humans, are part of this cycle, okay? Because we live on a planet And it only differs with us because we as humans, we are to be caretakers of the planet to make sure that everything is left intact and it's in sync. And when you don't, this is when you have all these things that were happening now. And right now, I think in Atlanta, in some parts in the southeast, many parts, we're having a lot of rain due to the hurricane that's coming through. On, I think did it hit Florida yesterday, or is it hitting today? So there's a lot of weather patterns that are not normal, and the heat wave now, which is killing people, it's just getting worse. Someone that's from Portland posted the sky-high temperatures up in Portland, Oregon, where they normally don't use AC or even have it because they're used to preparing for the cold, like it's 120 degrees up there in Portland, Oregon, which is, that's not even normal for there. So it is very concerning when I read these things and I see what's happening, because people are suffering because of greed. You know, we take the natural resources from the planet, not realizing that the planet is a living organism. She's alive, and then we have to protect her like we would protect our children. And you can't do this for greed. We have to do this because everyone depends on clean water, on proper food that's not GMO, okay, and having the soil intact, making sure that our oceans are clean. This affects everyone, whether you're poor or you're rich. And so nobody can bypass that, no matter how much money you have, okay? We all have to have access to all these things. So now, moving from the fact that we are creatures, we have been designed to be in sync with nature. So let's take a look at atoms, and specifically ions, okay? So, and we were talking about this, and I've talked about this on the show before. So in order to sustain life in the natural state, you have to have a balance of ions. And so you have the positive ions that come from outer space out there, and they interact to this planet. And then we have the negative ions that are on this planet, and 60% of them come from plants. Okay, so that is the ratio in which life is balanced, everything's okay. But then when you start tampering with the atoms, okay, which we've done when we've split these atoms and we've tried to see what we can do, there is something that is happening to the very foundation of life. So I know that there's some scientists that would disagree, saying manipulating these atoms and breaking them down, there's a lot of different scientific studies have been done. This has benefit society. But I've said before, real science does not destroy the very foundation of life. Real science doesn't destroy something else just to be created. Okay? So, you know, in Ayurveda, and just use your common sense, as a matter of fact, you can't do a good by destroying something to make something quote unquote better. And I've often said before, you don't need to improve upon nature. I mean, God created you in his image. You are the image of God, the creator. So what does that make you? Okay, are you not a god or a goddess if you're made in the image of God? You can't be something else if you come from a God. Okay, so that in that premise, you know, nothing needs to be improved upon that destroys something else. Okay, so let's just get that straight. So no matter what scientists are telling you in the Ayurvedic sense of science or the Vedic science, that is not science, because nature has to continue uninterrupted so that there can be continual birth and death process to keep that balance going. Something is born and then something is dying. As we know, energy is never totally destroyed. It just simply becomes, you know, goes into another form. Okay, so what has happened now, let's get back to ions. Now that we have this disruption of ions, and let's just take it down to the basic level of what everyone is very familiar with. So now we have tons of GMO crops. You've taken various crops and you have tampered with the very essence of something that grows naturally from the soil. You know, these things were put on the planet, plants, to flourish and be food for animals and to feed us, and we've tampered with it. So now we have altered, okay, the composition of plants. So what do you think that is doing with the ion balance? Remember, I said before that 60% of the negative ions come from the plant. So now, what do you think has happened? Because we have engineered all these GMO plants, that means that you're messing with the very foundation of what makes nature balance. And then what do you think happens when you're eating GMO food? So a lot of people say, oh, GMO food is safe, but in terms of the balance of the atoms inside the plants, they are not. It may look the same and it may taste the same, which to me, GMO food tastes totally different than if you growing organically or using Ayurvedic farming techniques like we do at Shanti Boone Institute. But there is a difference because there is a vibration from every plant that is based upon that balance I told you about. You got the positive ions, like I said before, that are coming from outer space to interact with this planet. And then we have negative ions that our planet gives off. So when you alter the plants, the food, then you are altering what happens to you when you ingest that plant in your body. That is affecting you, and it's affecting the balance of all your atoms. And you may have heard me talk about free radicals, which means there's an imbalance of the cells inside your body. So it starts with that. So once you take it to food supply, okay, then physically that affects humans as well as animals, all the animals on the planet. And so that is, like I said, that's the foundation of how we live. So it's really important that people understand, and now we're going into the sustainability. What is real sustainability? And I've had people talk about the carbon credits and solar panels and things like that. And I don't think solar panels and wind turbines are bad. However, everybody can afford solar panels. Okay, everybody can't afford wind turbines. What about people that live in villages or rural areas? They can't afford all that. So real sustainability, let's take it from the top to the bottom. So real sustainability, going back to what I said, it means that you are nurturing and keeping intact every aspect of nature. That means that what you're doing is you're not destroying something that messes with the water. You're not creating something that messes with the water. It's in balance. The water is taken care of, the soil is taken care of, the air is pure. So every aspect is being dealt with. The human, the animals, the marine life, the land animals, everything is being taken care of. So every piece of nature, all these components are living healthy and happy. So when I hear about, I think I read somewhere, and I won't mention the company's name, where they're growing they're growing food on this special film. I'm sure it's made of some sort of plastic, so you can grow in larger amounts of area, but you're producing a toxic item to be able to grow food. I would not want to eat that. So that is not real sustainability. I think it's being marketed as something that's sustainable. And I said, that's not really sustainable. So when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about being sustainable from what you see, obviously, to the most minute level of life. So on the atomic level, it has to be sustaining on that level too, because we all are made out of atoms, okay? And when you disrupt these atoms, okay, remember ions are atoms, then you're disrupting the very foundation of life. So Sri Charles and his teacher, Master Hassan, have talked about this for many, many years, about disrupting. When you change the atom, when you do fission, when you keep doing these things for progress, it's not real progress, because then you can destroy an entire society. When you know, look what has happened now with nuclear devices and things like that. I mean, you can, I mean, just with poof, poof, a whole country can be gone just because of that. So you have to remember that in the way that the Creator has created everything and created us, there is a balance. There's never a total destruction of one thing to the benefit of one part of each component of nature. So real sustainability will address the water, the air, the soil, the people, the animals, without disrupting anything, without having to make synthetic items, okay, without having to create more things that pollute and are hard to break down, like the microplastics. Real sustainability will not do that. So I know that, you know, we work with a lot of scientists, and, you know, I know some scientists that do follow. I mean, you might be listening to this and saying, well, this doesn't make any sense. You know, I understand it might put you out of a job, but no one will have a job, okay? No one will be able to do anything if we don't have a planet. So I wanted to talk about the very foundation of what makes anything viable, what makes this planet a planet, what sustains us as human, you know, what is, you know, happening in the oceans and all these things. That's another thing that they were talking about in British Columbia. They said all these small marine life, like the starfish and all these things, they died because of the temperature is too high, and they basically, you know, burned up to death. They said, I think 1 billion or 500 million of these small marine life. So that's what I'm saying. So whatever we do, we as humans, it affects everything. We have to work together to come up with simple solutions that apply to everyone, that will take care of each part of nature and is not going to destroy. And so now, and I talked about this before, about the water shortage that's happening in California. They've been talking about, they're saying they're running out of water. I think it's 21 out of the 31 counties up in California. So now what's going to happen is going to be a lot of people that are going to have water insecurity. They won't be able to live near, you know, or in these places where there's a water shortage, just like in Florida, where they are trying to build these seawalls because of the rising sea level. Most of the people in the United States live coastally. Let me repeat that. Most people live coastally, so you will be seeing a lot of people will be displaced and having to move elsewhere, which means it's going to cause water shortages other places, maybe even housing shortages and other things, because people are not going to be able to, it's not going to be sustainable for them to live on the coast or in an area where there are a lot of wildfires. And I think even read somewhere where because there's so many wildfires that insurance companies, okay, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, they're adjusting coverages. You may not be able to get coverage for wildfires in certain regions because they're not going to have any money to pay, to keep paying for all these horrific fires. So, you know, real sustainability is about making sure that we survive based on the natural order of life. Okay, we have to have the balanced ions. Okay, those ions mean everything. Once they get out of whack for humans, then we get what are called free radicals. Okay, and that's what causes disease and decay in our bodies. So it all starts though with the atom. And so at the beginning of time, atoms, that's how everything was created. It started with the atom. And then from there, the atoms developed more and more. and to other life forms, into the flora, into the fauna, into the minerals and the rocks and all these things. And then, of course, we are a collection of atoms. We're the humans, okay? And we have a consciousness that was assigned to us so that when we could take care of all these things that were created by Mother, Father, God, the Creator. So, you know, for atoms, we have to preserve them. So that's the building block of life, okay? We've read about atoms in our science classes in high school. Some of us have these science degrees, but let's get back to the basics. We don't have to complicate things with all this high technology. The original technology was, we were born with it centuries ago. And the people that are the original scientists are the farmers that farmed the land. Because they were able to observe how something grew, how quickly it grew, how to tend to the plants. Those are the original scientists, people that tended to the land, people that built their adobe buildings and they saw how to make irrigation systems and things like that. These are the original scientists, and they constructed things being mindful of the patterns around them, the natural patterns around them. So remember that each and every one of you, all of us are scientists because we observe. We take part of this ecosystem. We're part of it. Okay, the earth is inside of us, all 5 elements. Everything that is on this planet is inside of us, which means that we have wisdom. Yes, because everything is stored inside of the earth. The earth is an encyclopedia. You just have to be open to be able to hear and understand all that the mother has to say to us. But understand that if you go deep inside yourself, when you do Agnihotra, when you meditate, when you do deep breathing, then you'll understand on the deepest level without having to read a book. So this is just, you know, it's very important. And going back to atoms, sort of as a side note, we chant the mantras when we do Agnihotra at sunrise and sunset. We use Sanskrit. And so Sanskrit is a very high vibrational language. And so, you know, Om, that's Sanskrit. Okay, just to give you an example. So, and when you're chanting this all the time, you're cleaning up your DNA, you're upping your energy, and so you're filling yourself with love and that vibration. And as you know, if anyone has studied quantum physics, everything is built upon vibrations. So when you're saying Om, 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 that is a vibration. Okay, atoms are being jostled around, and there's creation just from saying Om. Okay, and so we chant the vibratory mantra. So for sunrise, we say Suryaya Swaha, Suryaya Idam Namama, Prajapatiye Swaha, Prajapatiye Idam Namama. The evening Agnihotra mantra is Agniye Swaha, Agniye Idam Namama, Prajapatiye Swaha, Prajapatiye Idam Namama. So there's a vibration. The more you chant that, the more you're filled with love, and the more you're building upon the atoms. Atoms are the creation. So when they have done measurements of what happens after Agnihotra, there have been scientific studies. They show that there's a purification and that the atoms are there, and there's a very high level of energy there, because like I said, Sanskrit is a high vibrational language, and when you do that, you know, you're chanting constantly, and you don't have to chant with fire all the time. You can just chant without fire, but you're upping your vibration. And the universe is based on vibrations. The universe is based upon love and high vibration. So as we know with quantum physics, You know, they could talk about the observer effect, where when they're doing some experiment, when you're observing, it changes what's happening with the experiment. So just think about that. If we're atoms, we're made of atoms, okay? That's the very foundation of life, and we're observing something, and we're changing that outcome by observing. Just think about that. Our atoms are arranged in these physical bodies, but atoms are high-level energy, okay? And we're observing. So we're talking about quantum physics. So when you talk about quantum physics, we're talking about things on a very subtle level. But there's a vibration there. There's a vibration. So hopefully all of this is connected some dots for you in terms of ions and disrupting atoms and what real sustainability is and what this means for the planet and for you, the human being. And so really the aim for us to be on this planet, God wants us to explore the planet, take care of the planet, and be as close to Him as possible. We're to have this journey and learn our lessons and really be in tune with the universe, and knowing that the atom is the foundation of everything. Think about the power of that, and think about when you tamper with that, what you're doing. You're tampering with yourself, with the very fiber of your being. You're tampering with God's beautiful creation when you mess with these foods, okay? And when we take the water, when the air is not breathable, okay? We have to be very mindful of that. The planet has to come first. The planet doesn't come first, then we're going to be last. Because the planet doesn't need humans to survive, okay? You know, the planet will flourish once we start tampering with it. We have to stop tampering with it. So I'm about to conclude. Let me see if anybody hasn't posted any questions before we conclude. And let me see here. I don't see any questions, I don't think, but I just wanted to double check. Okay, so I'm really happy to be able to share this message with you. And the time is now for us to do things. Things are happening even more rapidly. Every day in the news is like some other climate-induced issue that is happening in various cities in the United States and all over the world. So all of us really need to do Agnihotra. If you are in the Atlanta area, please come by. I'm located in Conyers, Georgia, and I'll let you know when we're open at the main campus in Tuskegee, Alabama. And if you're not in Atlanta, or you're in another state or another country, we can do a Zoom or a Skype, so I can tell you all about Agnihotra. We teach Agnihotra for free because this is a gift to mankind, because this is a way for us to help what's happening, to bring about peace and harmony and unity and a balance back to the planet and to the people that live on the planet. Because once the planet is healed, then you have healed some of the violence that's there amongst some people, and chaos, and people committing suicide, and all of these people that are filled with despair. We can do all of that with Agnihotra, because when the planet is healthy, then so we are healthy. Okay, so one is the other. You know, we are the planet is us. So now I'm going to tell you about some of the things that we have for sale. We have our #1 selling book, which is The Secret Science of Mudras, written by Sri Charles. And for those that have missed some of the mudra demonstrations, you know, mudras are done with the hands and the fingers, and the 5 fingers represent the 5 elements. And so when you're doing these, you affect a healing within the body. You have about 4,200 nerves that run from your fingertips to the rest of your body. So there's a lot of healing you can do. There are mudras for heart attacks and asthma, and for energy and different things. So, if you look at some of the old Agnihotra Lady Cosmic Clinic videos, I do have some demonstrations. But here's the book that Sri Charles wrote that you can buy. And right now we just have ebooks, but we're going to be getting actual paperback copies very soon. Okay, so the next item would be our signature Shanti's Ayurvedic plant food, our golden nectar. So we talked about, you can't eat GMO food. So this is highly concentrated. You can use this in your personal garden. You can use this if you're a farmer. This is a quart that makes about 3 gallons or a little bit more. Highly concentrated. Formulated by Sri Charles. So if you want to get a jump on growing your own food, this would be great. It increases the harvest time, increases the plant yield. It's a way for you to cut down on pests. It's excellent. Plants love it. They laugh and smile when you do the Shanti's Golden Nectar plant food for them. Okay, and so if you're new to Agnihotra, we do have a kit, Agnihotra kit, for you to get started. You can get started immediately. It comes with a few pieces of cow dung. And let me show you what's inside. You get this booklet telling you all about Agnihotra. And then we have, of course, the copper pyramid. This is the pyramid. Okay. And everything's copper, by the way. Here's the copper cup. The tongues. That was a spoon that dropped earlier. You have a copper tray. And then you have a copper stand. So these are all the items in which for you to get started performing Agnihotra, and it's something that you can do with your entire family. You can get your entire neighborhood to get involved with this. And so soon I'm going to go ahead and start going back into the at-risk communities, showing people how to do this in their communities to help alleviate pollution, because they dump more stuff and have more incinerators in the at-risk low-income communities. And then also too, you have more crime in those areas. So this is a way to clean the crime and get people out of the feeling of hopelessness. Okay, so contact me if you work or live in the at-risk community, because I want to get started traveling, not just here in the Atlanta or Georgia areas, but all over the United States, teaching, which is what we normally do, the areas, so people can be liberated from all these bad thoughts and this bad pollution. Okay, so these are the items that you can get at the ShantiVillainstitute.com. And then also too, and I've had these before, I have Homa crystals. These are quartz crystals, just raw, that they've been sitting in Agnihotra atmosphere for about, oh gosh, I guess like 5 or 6 months now, while I've done Homa fire. So there are other fires that I do besides Agnihotra. Agnihotra is the basic Homa, but there are other Homa fires that we do throughout the day. So this has been sitting in, these have been sitting in Homa fire atmosphere for like I said, 5 or 6 months. So if you want to buy these crystals, and you can use them for your meditation room or use them during meditation. I do not have those on Shanti Villa's website, but you can DM me and I can send you the PayPal link for the Homa crystals, okay? And those are about $25 depending on which size. So contact me. And let me see, did you all see these a little bit? Let me see. So you can see. These are just raw crystals, everyone, that have been sitting in Homa atmosphere. So that means that they have that healing effect from doing Homa fire, because Homa fire is very healing. So that's what these are. So as always, thank you for joining. This has been the Cosmic Clinic, and I'm the Agnihotra Lady, and I hope you have a very blessed evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you the next time.